All right, that looks pretty good. I mean, I feel like I'm a little bit tilted there on Instagram. Welcome. Good morning to you, fine sir and or madam, and welcome to the SitRep for today. It's an early-ish one, and I'm back at home in the war room, in the office. But I've still got stuff to do today, so early one. You got me for the next half hour though. Yeah, you. This is the SitRep, the situation report, where we go through news stories and things that are interesting to me that I've seen over the last couple of days and pull it apart from the perspective of making ourselves more prepared human beings. This is like your daily little reminder to be all that you can be as a human being. You deserve it. Your family deserves it. Your loved ones deserve it. Right now, the world can seem like a slightly terrifying place, but I believe it is an opportunity for us all to come together and to exercise our inherent right to be fully functional human animals. Yeah, that sounds good. Let's go with that. All right, some serious stuff and some funny stuff today. So let's just try and punch all through it. I'm going to start with something that is both seriously disturbing, and also seriously funny, like, this milk smells funny. That's not right. Former US misinformation chief registers as a foreign agent. Remember this? Remember was it? Oh, no, it was just US. I was going to say Facebook, but it was on everything. The US came out in their infinite wisdom and decided to do a Ministry of Truth. That's what it was nicknamed, at least. It's not its actual name. But what was that chick's name? Nina Jankowicz. Was, yeah, like the head of this Ministry of Truth. It was like a fact-checking thing that the US government decided to do, and it got shit canned ASAP, because it was a terrible idea for starters. But is that kind of dystopian stuff where you're like, is this a joke? Is this satire? What's actually going on here? Sorry, just moving my camera around. Those of you on the audio version have no idea what's going on right now. Yeah, so like everyone was like, well, what is this? And to be honest, this person like seemed really unhinged. This Nina woman seemed quite unhinged, and that's neither here nor there. Like, I guess if you're going to head up a government department, you kind of got to be unhinged on some level. But this person seemed particularly unhinged. I remember singing songs or some shit, and I was just like, I'm not even being a part of this today. Anyway, it went away. We ignored it. It went away. This person has come out and actually now registered as a foreign agent for the British. James Bond. So there you go. I read that and I'm like, the satire, the levels of satire within this, surely this can't be real. This cannot be real. You've installed this person who's coming out and singing and dancing and going, hey, we're going to curtail the truth. We're going to make sure your truth is your truth is in line with our truth, and our truth is the only truth there is. We're going to stop you speaking stuff. And then it comes out, also, I'm a foreign spy. Anyway, I found that amusing this morning, and I hope you do too. A reminder, though, the serious part of that, it's a reminder to just lay a little bit of a critical eye on everything that's coming out and going, what's actually going on here? What's behind this, perhaps? I thought that illustrated that point particularly well, where I thought initially, as soon as that first thing came out and this Nina woman started popping up, and I'm like, this milk smells funny. I'm pouring that out. I'm not having any of it. All right, let's jump into some other things today. Let's jump into that continent, that very large continent filled with a lot of people called Africa, which it's still there. I know you haven't heard of it for quite some time because it's not in the news, but it is still there. This is one story that popped up, which was interesting, mainly from the perspective that of who is involved. So I've talked about Africa in the past, and it's very interesting to me. It's interesting because a lot of us ignore it in the West. China and Russia do not ignore it. Russia, in particular, has a lot of interests in Africa. In particular, one country, Central African Republic, the CAR. So the CAR has come out and said, we just got bombed. Some of our troops got bombed. A plane has flown over. They haven't actually verified any of this. They just said a plane flew over and bombed one of their towns, a military base near one of the towns called, let me see if I can find it. I can't find it anyway. In the north of the country anyway, which is bordering Chad. Not the dude with the big chin, meme sort of Chad. Chad's actually a country in Africa, for those who don't know, just north of Central African Republic. Anyway, why is this interesting? Because a particular mercenary group called the Wagner Group, who are made up entirely of Russians and are actually paramilitary and linked very, very closely still with Russian government, and have been pulled out. Some of them have been pulled out of the African area and inserted into Ukraine. Anyway, this attack was conducted, and apparently the attack was against CAR and Wagner Group were involved somehow. I couldn't dig up a lot of details about it, unsurprisingly, but this is very interesting. This sort of stuff that happens in Central Africa. Again, it's just this big blind spot that no one in the West cares about or wants to look at. And I find it fascinating. I find it very interesting. And I find it interesting from the perspective of how does this tie into other things that are happening in the world? Was this attack from Chad against CAR, or was this other interests attacking Wagner Group as a proxy to attacking Russia? I don't know. Interesting that parts of Africa, Peter Rouse on YouTube, good morning to you, sir. Interesting that parts of Africa with very, very low vaccination rates do not have an increased death rate, unlike rest of vaccinated world. Very interesting. And this is one of those statistics that I've always been talking about that I look at. Follow the science. All right. So I followed the science. I keep getting hammered with this phrase, follow the science. Why don't you just follow the science? I'm like, cool. All right. Well, you know what? I am actually a scientist. I'm a sports and exercise scientist, but that's within the health sphere. I kind of understand how the human body works. So I'm going to follow the science, and I'm going to read peer-reviewed journal articles, and I'm going to look at the statistics that are coming out, the data that we have access to. And this is one of those interesting things, this, as Peter's rightly putting out here, look at vaccination rates, look at death rates, and especially look at death rates of unknown causes. I think that's very, very fascinating if we start to look at that. Anyway, according to the capital T, capital S, the science, TM, which is the Western science, which is the one that is very much in the pocket of companies like Pfizer and blah, blah, blah. According to that, the science, there should be no people in Africa anymore because they're all dead from COVID. They're all dead. They're all gone. They're not. They're still there. Fun wars stuff. Anyway, that was a little side rant, and I'm probably going to come back around to jab talk a little bit later. I think there's another story on it. This one popped up. Really interesting stuff about protests. A lot of protests going on at the moment. I keep talking about protests, civil unrest. I think it's a big deal. I think this is something that can affect a lot of people at any stage, and I think it's going to increase. I also think it's an indicator. It's yet another little data point on, hey, how are we faring? That's part of what the SitRep is like. What way is the wind blowing? What's happening? Where are we going here? We're seeing increased violence within our society. One way we see violent behavior manifest is in civil unrest. Right now in Europe, we have protests, and mainly this is they're all lumped under the rising cost of living. This is just a little infographic that I thought was interesting. UK, Belgium, Germany, Greece, France, Portugal, Spain, and it's got lists of protests within those countries, but at least those countries there are seeing civil unrest right now. So that was a really interesting one that I thought popped up. And again, just passing this sort of stuff on so we can see what's going on in the world. Little add-on here to my regular, not regular, irregular. What's regular anymore? Is the SitRep about news regular, or is me talking about that dude in Kiev regular? Anyway, the stories from Kiev. This was a bit of an add-on from my source when I was talking about traffic and the stopping of lights. And I was like, why can't people just use common sense and drive? Bad gads. You should know that common sense, okay? Super interesting information that my source sent me here. This coming out of the Kiev police, they released the impact of the light for traffic lights. Since October 10, when emergency power cuts were enforced in Ukraine and Russia's attacks on country's infrastructure, the number of road accidents with casualties in Kiev increased by 55% compared to the same period before the power cuts. Accidents involving pedestrians have doubled in frequency, and the death rate of these accidents has. So, yeah, those power cuts are having a dramatic effect on road traffic accidents and vehicle accidents. On the whole, not good news. Anyway, be safe out on the roads today. Peter Rouse says, YouTube getting a little choppy. It's not good. You know why? Because I went and did it, didn't I? I mentioned that which should not be mentioned. Oh, forging ahead. Moldova bracing for rolling blackouts. Moldova, if you've ever looked at how the power grid works, you could form a very, very solid argument that Ukraine is the powerhouse for most of Eastern Europe. So power outages in Ukraine mean that there's going to be problems for a lot of those bordering countries because the energy, from starters, the energy was flowing in different forms from Russia through Ukraine out into Europe. That got cut off ages ago, but actual electricity is being pumped out of Ukraine, manufactured in Ukraine or generated in Ukraine, I should say, and then pumped out into neighboring countries. Their blackout is everyone else's blackout. Moldova is in particular trouble here with this. They are very much in the firing line or vulnerable, I would say, to these sorts of things. So interestingly, one side part of this, and I'm going to go research this a little bit more because I don't know the history of these two countries very well, but Moldova and Romania, there appears to be a lot of talk about them reunifying, coming together, or at least unifying into one solid sort of state. Moldova cannot, by the look of it from the outside, cannot stand by themselves, against the, if Russians were to invade, they definitely cannot stand on their own 2 feet there. But they may be looking down the barrel of a humanitarian crisis if the power outages that they're warning will come. So that's some interesting stuff. I'm going to keep my eye on that. And, obviously my sources in this part of the general part of the world, so they'll be able to keep me abreast of this situation as well. All right. This is also interesting. This is not really a news story, but it was just fascinating to me being an Australian, and we don't have to heat our houses, or if you heat your house, you do it yourself. You turn on some electric device or you start a fire or whatever it is. This just actually popped up. This was on some Russian news channel, but it's not news at all. How are Russian homes heated? In Russian cities, most buildings are centrally heated by hot water flowing through pipes. The water temperature is the responsibility of a local boiler station or heat and power plant. And I've talked about these thermal power plants before, briefly. one per neighborhood or district. It supplies heat to cast iron radiators, or the more newer versions are aluminium ones, which are in flats and things like that. And they come on if, this was kind of interesting to me, if the daily temperature outside stays below 8 degrees Celsius for 5 days in a row. So that's the key thing, is that 5 days in a row below 8 degrees, bang, you'll start getting this heat pumped into your house automatically. The temperature checks on it that it won't fall below 18 degrees. Bathrooms have to be 25 degrees, and living rooms cannot go over 24 degrees. So really interesting stuff. And I think, I mean, I read this and it really speaks volumes of the communist mindset to me. Was the first thing. It's like, no, we have the power here to heat, and we'll give it to you, and we'll set it as well. It also reminded me of certain things that have been going on, especially within the US recently, where we've seen automated systems of air conditioning and things like that be set by the company, which is being obviously pressured by the government because they don't have enough electricity. So they're saying, hey, we need everyone to cut their or limit their cooling to this level here instead of being up here. But that was interesting to me, just to kind of round out that story, because I've been talking about this guy in Kiev and understanding how the heating works there and why it's such a big deal, why he's trying to get heaters all of a sudden. Why didn't he have heaters? It's because it's all kind of centrally governed when we throughout this entire area. All right. Erdogan. What's Erdogan up to? Jumping over to Turkey again. Remember, Turkey-Syria conflict that is kicking off at the moment. It appears to be increasing. So has Erdogan come out and said, we're going to decrease it? No, he has not. Erdogan says Turkey to attack Kurdish militants with tanks and soldiers. President Erdogan said on Tuesday that Turkey would attack militants with tanks and soldiers as soon as possible after retaliatory strikes escalated along the Syrian border between Turkish forces and Kurdish militia. So this is another one that is yet increasing. As I've said, I'm going to keep my eye on this one because this is a part of the world that I have visited before. So I do understand a minute part of this conflict here, but this is adding into the picture that we're seeing, being added into our already clustered picture of flashpoints throughout the world. What's another flashpoint? Korea. South Korea scrambles jets as China-Russia warplanes enter air defense zone. Not news that China has entered into this zone here. China flies sorties in this area. China believes they own pretty much this entire area. Obviously, South Korea being involved is a bit different. What we're usually hearing is Taiwan. When we're thinking Chinese sorties, they're doing it pretty much daily, flying sorties in and around Taiwanese airspace, but this is South Korean airspace now. The big difference here, I think, also was Russian. So we see Russian warplanes flying in there now. The reporting that came from this is very much Western orientated. They're like, China, Russia. Like China came in, the Korean air defense system was sort of activated and the alarm bells went off. They kind of went out and then they came back in with Russian planes the next time. China and Russia are doing, what would you call it, war games, exercises at the moment. So, this kind of stuff isn't unfathomable. It didn't really come out of nowhere. Unless you read the Western telling of this, and then it did come out of nowhere, and it's crazy, and it's this massive escalation all of a sudden. But it's really not. It is interesting though that they are buzzing places like South Korea at the moment. Another flashpoint. All right, let's get into some lateral sort of stuff, I guess. Not necessarily news, just very, very interesting stuff to me. Disturbing study finds that humans are getting progressively dumber. IQ points now dropping by 7 points with each new generation. Interesting. I have talked about this before, that anecdotally, I feel like on the whole, humans are getting dumber. And that's just my experience of dealing with people day to day, and also going through a lot of these news stories and watching how our societies are doing what they're doing at the moment. And I go, are people getting dumber? Like, it's just a feeling. It's like, can I even quantify that? Well, apparently somebody can quantify that. Um, the dumbing down of civilization has been codified in a new study published in the journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. A pair of researchers from Norway found the average IQ levels are dropping precipitously, and that with each new generation, people in general are becoming progressively less intelligent. Um, Peter Rouse says fluoride. I'll get there. I'll get there. So what did they do? They evaluated the test scores of more than 730,000 young men. That's interesting. Are the women getting smarter? Possibly. But they've seen a decline pretty much since World War II. So you could argue increase in affluence, decrease in IQ. Maybe, I don't know. But this kind of flies in the face of the trend. This is a sharp contrast to the state of human intelligence during the first half of the 20th century, when average IQ scores were rising at a steady rate. So what could be the cause of this? They go through and start to talk about some of these causes. I mean, I don't know who actually put together these causes. It might have been the report that I was reading, or it could have been the journal article that they're referencing. Fluoride chemicals directly linked to lowering IQ. So you've got good teeth, but brain no worky so good. Don't drink tap water. Speaking of water, always filter your water. Industrial crop chemicals, lead and mercury in vaccines are all linked to brain damage and lowering IQ. There we go. Peter Rouse also says lower animal fats intake. Yes, that's why I daily try to increase my fat intake. I'm actually crazily obsessed with animal fats. There's a part of my brain which is very well developed, I think, which every time a piece of animal fat hits my tongue, it lights up, and it's like, it's a special kind of joy. It's a happiness that is not any sort of other happiness that I know. Nothing else can emulate it. All right, so people are getting dumber. There we go. We know it. The next couple of stories that I'm going to go through are things that help back this up, in my mind at least. Thousands of Australians stripped for tunic cancer awareness photo shoot. So 2,500 people took off their clothes on Saturday to pose for a US photographer, Spencer Tunick, at Sydney's Bondi Beach in an effort to raise awareness about skin cancer. Got to raise that awareness. Can I ask you a question? Did you not know about skin cancer? Did you need 2,500 people to get nude for a photo for you to become aware about skin cancer? Who the fuck doesn't know about skin cancer? Honestly, why do you need to raise awareness for skin cancer? The other thing that really sort of triggers me about this, trigger warning, that set me off about this is that, are these people that will get nude anyway? Or are they going, oh, no, I've got the excuse now because it's the awareness of skin cancer, so I can do it. I'm legitimized in it. That kind of thinking kind of disturbs me. It's that legitimization when you link something to a behavior to something and go, well, it's legitimized because it's because of this. It is the exact thinking that goes behind virtue signaling. And I hate it. Anyway, dumb people. Peter Rouse says sunscreen causes more cancer. I don't use sunscreen, just fun fact. And people give me shit for it. They're like, oh, you're going to get skin cancer? I'm like, cool, because everyone who uses sunscreen has never had skin cancer. Anyway, Humanity may be functionally infertile by 2050, new study warns. So that we could find a way out of it, right? Lowering IQs doesn't matter. We're all going to become infertile. We beat them. IQ can't go down if there are no more humans left. Smart. This sort of stuff disturbs me. The most disturbing thing I find about reports about lowering of sperm counts and infertility is that they are rarely backed up with any sort of critical thinking about why. Well, why? Oh, well, it could be there's rising estrogen levels or something like that. Oh, okay, why is that happening? Oh, it might be linked to microplastics, but we don't really know. No, don't stop there. Like, continue down that thought. It's linked to microplastics, so what can we do about that? It's linked to this, it's linked to that. What can we do about that? EMFs and all this sort of stuff. Oh, it's linked to our modern society, right? Okay, what can we do about that? Yeah, it's just this sort of doom and gloom news that I'm seeing every 3 days where they pump it out going, sperm rates falling, infertility coming, boom, boom, boom. Also, you'll see this this idea that, or linked sort of simultaneously with there being too many humans on Earth, resources, we're destroying the Earth, climate change, blah 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 blah. So I don't know. I'm starting to see this picture of what I would call a death cult fantasy that's happening, where people are looking at this and going, "Oh yeah, okay." I don't know. I read this stuff and I'm like, "Hey, I want to go have babies, many babies right now." So this is your daily reminder that it's your duty to have babies. I've got to do it. Gads on Ragnarok Survival told me I have to go do it. All right, this is the last one, and this is... Oh, no, it's not the last one. Second last one. This one's about the jab. Warning. A top Australian doctor has warned that the world is facing the most perilous moment of the COVID pandemic as the virus runs out of control in China because of its draconian zero COVID policy. Former federal Deputy Chief Medical Officer Dr. Nick Coatsworth said China's insistence on zero COVID rather than learning to live with the virus like the rest of the world could now lead to a significant COVID spread globally and even death. This is hurting my head to read it, because all that stuff was exactly what these ass clowns were saying, but now they're saying, oh, it's because you're locking down. Look at us point the finger at them. Look at how they are locking down. Oh, it's not like you did that to us. Yeah, but we learnt our lesson, and forgiveness now. It's all about forgiveness. Just insanity. Just absolute insanity. Dr. Coatsworth said, the genie is out of the bottle and warned China was particularly at risk of major outbreak because, unlike other countries, its citizens had neither had access to Western vaccines nor had the bolstered natural immunity through exposure to the virus. I'm shaking my head. This is like, it's not even clever gaslighting anymore. It's like so pathetically stupid gaslighting and should be so obvious to every other human being on the face of the earth. People should be reading this and going, what? That's the exact opposite of what you've been saying to us for 2.5 years. And now it's all good for us to point the finger over there and go like, oh, they're so very bad. Look at how they're doing it. It's like, no, that's how you did it. Oh, yes, but that was in the past. That's okay. Anyway, humans are getting dumber. We're all getting dumber, folks, so enjoy the ride. Ignorance, they say, is bliss, so maybe I'll one day be a happy person. No, I am a happy person. My life is pretty damn great, apart from reading these things. All right, this is the last one. This is your daily reminder to get out in the garden and start growing your own food. What's happening in the Netherlands right now should disturb you and also light that fire for us to all start making our own food, for us to all start bringing our food system as close to home as we possibly can. 2,000 to 3,000 farms in the Netherlands to go. The cabinet has published its plans to reduce nitrogen-based pollution in the Netherlands, and as widely leaked, they include a buyout plan for farmers. Well, that's good. It's a plan. You're going to offer up some money to the farmers, right? So if they want to get out, they're like, "Hey, here's some money." It's just offering it up, right? Mm-mm. Ministers have confirmed that 2,000 to 3,000 farms and other major polluters. Oh, I love how they just slid that in. 2,000 to 3,000 other farms and other polluters. So, bam, farms, you're already lumped in there. You are part of the problem, polluters. Not just like polluters and farms. They're not even admitting that, like, oh no, farms have some good qualities to them. They're not saying, oh, farms are absolutely essential to our existence, but it's the pollution we have to get rid of. So we're going to have to, make some sort of compromise here. No, farms and polluters. Farms are the exact same thing as a coal burning factory. Oh, they're the exact same thing as, some sort of smelter. They're bad. They're bad. They will be offered a buyout deal amounting to well over 100% of the value of their company. That's nice, I guess. Further on, I didn't actually snap a screenshot of this, but I did read it. Further on in the report, it says, mentions the word mandatory buyout. So that's the key change there. Like I said, it's like just offering, oh, look, we're going to give you 110% of the value of your business. By the way, when we actually just look into it right now, how do you think a farm business is doing at this point in time, considering the overheads it's going to have because of inflation? That 100% of the value of the business, 100% of the value of the business, a business with superb overheads right now that are crushing them, their value. So they're probably not going to get a whole lot for them. But the key point there was that it could be a mandatory buyout. That is not a choice. That's disturbing stuff. So once again, this is a daily reminder that this sort of stuff should incense you and incite you to get into the garden. So if you've got the opportunity today, please get into the garden. I am regaled in some furnishings today, this one being brand new, a merino wool beanie that my brother has given me for my birthday. This was actually a birthday gift from him 1 or 2 years ago. So I'm going to ask you, please, for my birthday this year, I would like the following thing. For you to go out and buy some seeds and or some seedlings and put them in the ground. And I don't care if you don't have ground, if you don't own the ground, or if you're not renting ground or whatever, find some ground to go put it in. Go plant some food today. I would really love that. And then send a photo to me. That would make my day. That would make my birthday. I'd love that. So yes, and work on your ham license. Yes, I agree, Peter. Work on your ham license, because not only will give you the ability to speak to other people, to communicate to others. That's something that I'm working on. But it's also got the word ham in it, which reminds me of food, and I'm hungry right now. So I'm going to go eat some breakfast and walk my dogs. But that's it for today. Hey, bub, I need to get a cigar. Every time you come on, bro, I need a cigar hanging out of my mouth. Pull it out. Hey, bub. Schmink. All right, that's it for today, gang. Thank you very much for joining me as always. Stay happy out there. Stay prepped. Keep the preps going. If you can, get that food in the ground. And thank you very much for everyone who has joined, has subscribed, has hit the like button, and has sent me stuff through email or messages about your preps and stuff like that. Love to see it. Keep it up, guys. And until next time, Semper Paratus.